a quick social media post or a massive high-end documentary, mastering this pipeline is exactly what ensures your creative vision actually makes it to the final screen.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why do some videos absolutely blow up and go viral, while others just completely flop on the feed? It's the million-dollar question, right? You can have the most stunning, compelling footage in the world, but if the packaging and the export are wrong, it's just not going to perform. The answer almost always comes down to the unseen power of high-quality post-production. It's really about how we capture attention, how we protect our brand, set the mood, and mathematically optimize our files for the exact platforms they live on.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by covering the creative aesthetic choices first, like hooking the audience with visual loops, branding, and setting the sonic mood, before we get into the highly technical publishing weeds with export settings and rendering.
Number 1. Hooking with visual loops. Capturing attention in that endless social media scroll is your very first hurdle.
So why are looping videos so mathematically favored by social media algorithms? Well, it's simple. Every time a video automatically restarts, boom, that counts as a brand new view. And those views compound incredibly fast. Derek Rhodes from Vimeo actually pointed out that completing the loop has become the ultimate indicator of success on TikTok. It literally outranks comments or likes. Loops naturally catch the eye because of that continuous movement, which makes them absolutely perfect for tutorials or really nailing comedic timing. But here's the catch. You have to create platform-native loops designed specifically for the app, not just lazily chopping down a standard 30-second ad.
Now, if you really want to mesmerize your audience, you've got to look at the cinematograph. The term was coined back in 2011 by photographers Kevin Berg and Jamie Beck during New York Fashion Week. A cinematograph is basically this magical hybrid between a still photo and a video. By isolating movement, say just a single dangling leg or a gentle breeze blowing through someone's hair against a completely static background, you create this seamless, amazing loop. It practically forces the viewer to stop scrolling and just watch it over and over again.
Section 2. Branding and text design. This is where we add that vital context and actually protect all our hard work.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the distinct difference in how we can display text. On one side, you've got semi-static expression. That's your basic static text that might have some super minor dynamic elements. Maybe a subtle color shift or a slight brightness change. But on the other side, we have dynamic expression. This is the big leagues. We're talking multi-element movement, screen switching, and high-action typography that brings an entirely new level of energy to your visual design.
And if we look at software like DaVinci Resolve, creating this dynamic text is surprisingly intuitive when you use the Text Plus tool. It's basically a simple 3-step workflow. First, just drag Text Plus right into your timeline. Second, dial in your typeface, style, and fill color in the inspector panel. And third, this is the really important part. Apply the secret sauce, keyframes. By setting keyframes at different points, you animate the position, size, or rotation of your text. That's how you get those dynamic zooms and smooth pans that just instantly elevate your production value.
Okay, let's talk about protecting your brand. Adding a logo watermark keeps your content from being stolen across the globe, which is absolutely crucial. But you definitely don't want it to ruin the viewing experience, right? So whether you're using tools like Uniconverter or Adobe Premiere, 60% is your golden rule. Setting your watermark opacity to exactly 60% ensures your brand is clearly visible and protected, but it doesn't become this annoying visual distraction that makes people want to swipe away.
Moving right along to step 3, setting the sonic mood. This is the final phase of our creative polish, where we marry visuals to the perfect audio track.
Choosing the right audio is literally make or break. Let's look at this track, April Glow by iKaleidos, as a perfect example. It's a beautifully minimalist ambient track sitting at a really serene 65 beats per minute in the key of A minor. It gives you this broadcast-ready sonic floor with delicate acoustic guitars, ethereal space pads, and a dreamy piano. But here's what's crucial for professional editors. You want to acquire a pro license so you get the stem files. Stems are the isolated individual instruments. Having the stems means you can easily, say, drop out that acoustic guitar during a documentary voiceover. It gives you total, precise control of your sound design.
Step 4. Perfecting your export settings. We're shifting the narrative now from the creative, polish, to the highly technical, publish.
This is the exact moment where your videos will either shine brilliantly or turn into total pixelated messes. So the crucial point is understanding bitrate. Bitrate is, quite simply, the amount of data dedicated to each second of your video when it's exported out of your editor. If your bitrate is too low, your video is literally starving for data, and it's going to look blocky and terrible. But if it's too high,
Your file size gets massive and it becomes almost impossible to stream efficiently. You're usually going to face two choices here: constant bitrate, or CBR, and variable bitrate, or VBR. Think of it like a lawn sprinkler system. CBR is like a sprinkler that waters the entire lawn equally. It dedicates the exact same amount of data to every single second of video, completely ignoring what's actually happening on screen. VBR one-pass, though, that's like a smart sprinkler. It smartly dedicates more water, or in this case, data bits, to the action-heavy, really complex areas of your video, and it saves data on the quiet, static shots. It optimizes your file size beautifully.
So when you're exporting short-form content for TikTok or Instagram Reels out of Premiere Pro, the sources give us this really bulletproof recipe. First, set your sequence to 1080 by 1920 to avoid those awful black bars. Second, select the preset Match Source Adaptive High Bitrate. Third, and trust me, this is a massive time saver, choose hardware encoding. That actually utilizes your computer's GPU for a way faster export. And finally, set your target bitrate to 10 megabits per second. That perfectly satisfies Instagram's compression algorithms. And finally, step 5, the ultimate rendering guide. This is where we get into heavy-duty rendering, specifically focusing on After Effects workflows.
Choosing your format is a super deliberate choice, entirely based on your video's final destination. H.264, or MP4, is the undisputed king of web and social media. Why? Because it gives you good quality with incredibly small file sizes, keeping things efficient. But if you're handing a file off to a professional colorist or prepping it for actual broadcast, you're going to want Apple ProRes or DNX HD. Yes, the file sizes will be massive, but the quality is top-tier excellent. And if you need transparent backgrounds for visual effects, a PNG sequence is your go-to. It's lossless, but again, very, very large.
And this brilliantly illustrates the two main pathways we have when rendering out of After Effects. It really highlights why we need different tools for different jobs. The native render queue is fantastic for high-quality batch processing directly inside the software itself. But Adobe Media Encoder, that is an absolute lifesaver. It processes your files in the background. That means you can queue up a massive render and just keep right on working on your next composition in After Effects without your computer locking you out.
Now, the demands on your machine are going to vary wildly depending on your workflow. 2D workflows rely on flat layers, basic motion graphics, simple text. They render pretty fast and really only require moderate hardware. 3D workflows, on the other hand, incorporate deep environments, high-resolution models, and complex HDRI lighting and shadows. That requires some serious computational power. You absolutely need high-speed solid-state drives and a really robust GPU to handle those render times.
But look, even with an amazing computer, renders sometimes fail, and it's almost always because you ran out of memory. Here is the ultimate troubleshooting secret. Go into your After Effects preferences and allocate exactly 90% of your system's RAM directly to After Effects. Just leave that remaining 10% for background applications. If you combine that with purging your disk cache, I promise you it'll solve the vast majority of your failed render nightmares.
Let's move to our final thought and see how this builds together. By mastering these steps, from capturing that initial visual loop all the way to dialing in the perfect background render, you effectively strip away the technical barriers that hold back your creativity. So if your next video export is completely flawless, what story will you finally be able to tell without those technical distractions getting in your way? Take these tools, apply them to your own pipeline, and see what happens. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you in the next one.